Welcome back, everyone, to Talk Wordy, my hub for all of the words that I read, write, or otherwise want to yap about. Today, I have another super special author guest with me. She is an indie author that writes whirlwind romances that include important, sensitive topics such as anxiety and grief. Her debut novel, One Shot, and her most recent book, Summer Shot, are part of the Wyverns Hockey series, perfect for spicy sports romance fans. Please welcome AC Wonderland to the show. AC, welcome to Talk Wordy.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I have not gotten to totally finish both of your books yet, but I'm in the middle of them. I was telling you before this started, I am such a sports romance fan, but I haven't read a sports romance, let alone a hockey romance in quite a few months. So I've been having the time of my life. You guys seriously need to go check these books out. But before we start getting into discussions about you and your books, what I like to do with some of my guests is kick it off with just giving an overview about what you've been reading, watching, and listening to. So lately, I've been reading, I actually just finished Overdue by Stephanie Perkins. Technically, it was an audiobook, but I'm still going to count it in
It
my
counts.
reading.
It counts.
Absolutely, yes. I will always defend audiobooks
Same.
counting towards my reading goal. But I just finished Overdue and I was hesitant at first because as writers, I think we get told a lot to show, not tell. And this
Mhm.
book read very telly, but it was so good. I almost liked the frankness of the narrator's voice. It was really cute. Um,
I'll have to
I
add it to my
really
list.
hope it's not going to give me a book hangover. But what about you? What have you been reading?
Yeah, I'm reading from Blood and Ash by JLA right now. I have the absolute pleasure of going as a reader to a Polycon in April with my sister. My sister is a huge JLA fan, my older sister, and she has told me a million times I need to start this series. And I was like, all right, we're going to meet her. I do need to start this series. So I'm doing the audio and physical read in tandem. So I haven't started it yet, but that is what I'm planning on starting this week. I started doing the audio by itself, and I was like, this is too much with fantasy, too much world building that I need to physically look at it so I can actually process everything. Sometimes when I just do audio for fantasy, I'm like ADHD, what's going on? I need to rewind 50 times. So reading that, and then also reading nonfiction, which is pretty rare for me. It's called bleh, I can't words, Present Over Perfect. And it's just kind of taking a step back from life and looking at how busy you are and if that's really what you want to do with your life or if you want to be more present in what you're doing day to day. So I just thought it was an interesting read. I had a friend recommend it to me. It is a little on the religious side, but I think it's a phenomenal book for anyone who's looking for something kind of to take a step back and see what matters to them and if they feel like they're prioritizing right.
That's going on my Christmas list for sure. I
Oh,
feel like
it's so
that book
good.
would speak to me. Okay, as far as watching goes, me and my husband have been doing a Stranger Things rewatch. We just finished season two, because season five, the first part comes out on the 26th of this month.
Right. There's a
Um,
fifth season. I'm so behind.
I didn't realize how hefty this rewatch was going to be because I remembered most of it, but there were so many pieces and hints that slipped through the cracks that now that I'm watching it back, it makes me think of that TikTok audio where it's like, that's Jane in them. Like you're seeing all of these people and these hints from 2016 to something that is going to happen in season five or that did happen in season four. It's just bonkers. But we start season three tonight. Season three is my favorite. And then I also just started the new season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I don't know if you're super big on reality TV or the Mormon Wives, but it is juicy. I don't know if I'm going to like this season as much as the ones in the past, because it's starting out really rough, really rocky. But I tell you what, those women know how to make good TV. They
Oh, I've
really
heard.
do.
I have not watched it, but I have heard good things. I don't watch a ton of TV, but I am on a reality TV kick. I finished all of the last season of the US version of Love is Blind. So now I'm like, okay, let's go to the UK version of Love is Blind. So I'm on season one of the UK version, and everything is just better with an accent. It's
Yeah.
great. And what's nice is like they're a little older in the UK version, so I feel like it's a little more relatable and more realistic, where they're not all like 24 to 26 years old trying to get married. They're, 30 plus, and I feel like it's a little more um realistic. So I'm watching that right now. I can say that it's probably better than the US version. I
I
like it a
was
lot.
gonna say, I'm interested to see if the UK has better success rates or if it's just an easier pill to swallow because there are times when the US version is just
Oh yeah.
tough.
I don't know if you watched the last season, but it was
It was bad.
like I had
It
so
was
many
bad.
things that I want to say, but I don't want to give it away to anybody who hasn't watched it. But yeah, it was not great. It was not a great season. Like it was to start off, and I thought it was going to be so great, and then just
Yeah.
sadness. Just
hmm
sad.
No joy. Just
No.
I'll never get that time back. So hopefully the UK version is good.
So
I
far,
don't know any spoilers, so
I recommend so far. I like it's good. It's good. And I looked up spoilers, so I know that there is some success rate.
there
I
you
needed to
go.
know. After the last season of the US version, I needed to know. So I cheated a little bit.
Yep. And then listening wise, aside from my audiobooks, I have been listening to Christmas music non-stop. I am definitely a person that like wants Christmas to come as soon as possible, but also celebrate it for as long as possible before it actually arrives. Um, when I was a kid, I thought that Paul McCartney's Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time was saying Sydney's Having a Wonderful Christmas Time.
Oh my
So
gosh, I
that's
love
kind of
it.
like my mood booster song,
Yeah.
especially now that the weather's, well, it's not warm where I am. I'm in Texas and it was 85 degrees yesterday in mid-November, but it's nice to pretend that it's Christmas time. So that's what I've been listening to. Have you been listening to any you know, new music, old music, Christmas music? What have you been listening to?
Yeah, I'm a big country music fan. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, so it's still not winter here yet, which I will like. It's not even fall, and I'm okay with that. Like I am perfectly, perfectly okay with the warm weather. I've been listening to Carly Pierce put out a new song on Friday, which I've been listening a lot to. It talks about it's called Dream Come True, and it talks about how like no one tells you everything you're going to miss out on when you're chasing a hard dream, which I feel like is so relatable, especially as like an indie author. Highly recommend the song. And Kelsey Ballerini also released some new music on Friday, so I've been listening to the two of them, and it's been great.
I didn't know Kelsey dropped a new song. I'll have to
Yeah,
go
she
check it
has like
out.
I didn't know either. My friend told me it's like a 5 or 6 song EP that she just released. And I was like, what? Have I been sleeping on social media? Because I had no idea, but it's good. It's great. Definitely recommend.
Yeah, I'll have to go check it out. I saw her concert back in like late February, and
It's
I was like a pretty, low-key average Kelsey fan. I saw her concert and I was like, I have to listen to everything she writes now. And I guess
She's
I've
so
been
good.
living under a rock because I also didn't know that she was releasing an EP. Hopefully it was a surprise and I wasn't just like super out of the
Yeah,
loop.
we'll
But
pretend. We can pretend it was a surprise. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, awesome. All right. Now that we know a little bit about you, surface level, what you've been up to, what you've been listening to, watching, reading, I want to get more into you as a writer. So, first off the bat, I want to know, was there a moment or what was the moment that, like, just in your life, however old you were, when you realized, yeah, I want to be an author, I want to write books? What was that moment for you?
Yeah, pretty recently, I would say about a year and a half ago, actually. I've always loved writing. I was the kid in school who wrote like 20 pages when it was just so like one page essay. Like I always have written songs, poetry. I've started books. I've never finished them until now. I can say I've finished three now, which is exciting. But I just was not feeling fulfilled in my day to day, in my day job. And I kind of was like, I feel like I'm missing something and I don't know what that is. And I was already on Bookstagram because of Sarah J. Maas. I read her books and got on Bookstagram and met a bunch of wonderful people and kind of was like, there are so many people who are doing this. Why can't I do it too? And the story literally came pouring out of me. I started it in July and I finished my first draft less than 2 months later because it was just like I could not even explain how everything just perfectly came out of me. And it's like, I wish that would could happen again. Like it was a perfect storm. It will never happen again in my life. But it was great to be able to find that outlet. And I kind of went the hockey romance route just because I genuinely love hockey. I had never read a hockey romance before. I still don't read a ton of them because I want to make sure my ideas are original. But I grew up in Chicago, so just love the sport. And it kind of went hand in hand. I was kind of like, if I could go back to college, what would I want my life to be like? So I wrote that exactly what I would want it to be. So
That's so cool. Okay, so you had that moment. You wrote the book. Also, the fact that your first book was able to be like just written in
I
2 months.
if only I could do that again.
I know. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that is like every author's dream, I feel like. Because I know some people who, if they're like really disciplined and they like hide their phone, they can finish it in like 3 or 4 months. Man, the last time I wrote a book, it took me off and on almost 2 years. So congrats to you, major
Thank you.
props. Um, so obviously, since that book was so fast to write, um, once you got into editing, like how did you incorporate writing and editing into your everyday life? You were talking about how you were dissatisfied at your day job. Like
Mhm.
what became your new normal? What was your schedule like
Ooh,
once you
hectic.
started integrating all of the writing aspects?
Yeah, I pretty much work from like 7 to 7 every day, which is not ideal. Right now, I'm taking a little mental break from writing because I can't write a book in 2 months like I used to, which I'm like, it's so frustrating. But at the same time, I'm like, that wasn't normal. It's okay. Like you're doing the best you can. But yeah, I work long hours. I also make sure that like if I don't feel it, I don't force it. That's a big thing for me with writing. Like, of course, I always like I wish I could write every day, but there are some days where I'm just like my brain isn't processing. I can't do it. I just need to step away. There are also days when I can't write a specific book and then I pivot into a whole different book and somehow create a whole nother project that I didn't even think I knew anything about. Like an hour ago. So it really just depends on the day. But I try to write almost every day and then also on the weekends. Like that's kind of how I start. My weekend in the morning is like work out, write for 2 hours or more, and then be social. And I think I'm still really learning how to balance all that without burning myself out because I think I reached a little bit of a point where I'm like, okay, this isn't sustainable. So trying to integrate more flexibility and giving myself grace is new to me.
Yeah, absolutely. When you first start that first ever book and you're like, oh, I'm getting the hang of this. I love this feeling. I don't want it to end. But then, whether you're deeper into that project or you've started a new one, you're suddenly like, whoa, this is intense. This is a lot. I need to like step back, but I don't want to because I feel like it sounds like you're the type of person that writing like fuels you, but
Hmm.
also you don't want to burn yourself out on it. And that's such a fine line that's so hard to like
Yeah.
balance.
I
Um, and I'm right there with you. It's so difficult because I feel like if I don't write, especially in the mornings, like you were saying, like if I don't start my day or start my weekend writing, it's like my social battery is never quite at 100. Like it helps juice me up before I have to go out and socialize or leave my computer behind.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
agree. One thing, I don't know if you found this, but one thing that I've found lately is if I don't feel the motivation to write, I get out of my house and go to like a brewery and I write there. And that tends to help me for some reason because I'll get like out of my office. I don't feel like as constricted, and I feel a little like I don't know what it is. I think I just getting outside of my norm forces me to like think a little differently. So I've that's been working well for me. And then I also get a beer out of it. So it's always
Heck
nice.
yeah. It's like a little treat.
Yes.
Um, That actually makes me wonder. So if you leave your house and like go to a brewery or something, when you're writing, do you like outside noise? Do you like music? Do you prefer to write in like silence? What is your ideal writing atmosphere?
I genuinely generally, words are hard sometimes. Write at home, like I kid you not, my entire first book that I wrote one chapter outside of my house because I was like, I don't want to like be distracted by people. I also don't want to be like writing a spicy scene and someone like read a word and be like, what the hell is she doing? But I decided like there's a hard chapter I had to write and I needed to be in a very like comforting, great atmosphere. So I went to my favorite winery. Alcohol tends to be a theme for some reason because it fuels my creative juices, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't do it a ton, but when I feel stuck, like when I feel like I am hitting a wall, that's when I tend to be like, okay, I need to get out of my norm and something isn't working. So then I'll go somewhere. I do get distracted very easily. I do have ADHD, so that tends to be a little difficult sometimes. But as long as I can get a little bit of writing done, it feels like a good reset.
I'm gonna have to try that because I will say I get into not a flow, the opposite of a flow. When I hit, I guess, writer's block or I hit a wall and I'm writing in my house, like I just shut my laptop. Whereas I think maybe a change of scenery would be the move.
I am gonna do that today, I think, because I've found it to be the most helpful. I feel like I'm hitting a wall right now. And instead of being like, okay, I'm unmotivated, like I'm just gonna close my laptop, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go see if I can do it here. And if I can, great. If not, I tried. I tried my best. I'm supporting local business. And yeah, why not?
So you kind of hinted at it a little bit, but was there anything different in your process when you were writing book two as opposed to book one?
It was a lot harder to write. It didn't come flowing out of me as much as book one did. But I wrote in more spaces. I got outside more and went to one brewery in particular, which was great because I actually had my book launch at that brewery and like they didn't know, but I was like, oh, like part of this story was made here, which was so exciting for me. Um, so I got outside of my house more. I also reread a lot more of what I was writing, which like I didn't do as much previously. Had an insanely long list of notes from like, here's everything that happened in book one that I need to remember. So it was just kind of a different process in general because it was a continuation of the story versus like the start of the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, let's get into your books a little bit more. So, tell our listeners a little bit about, I guess, more so book one, because if I'm correct, book two is almost like a continuation. It's
Yes.
not interconnected standalones.
Little different than most sports romances. It's not like each book is not focused on a couple. The first three books is one couple because they have so much story to tell and they live rent free in my brain and needed to get out and be shared with more people. So you can technically read Summer Shot, the second book, without reading the first book. It does give you like a quick little recap, just like a Netflix show would. It has like a few pages that gives a recap of the first book, but I would say the first book is a lot more of an emotional roller coaster where you don't really get that context as much in of how One Shot deals with some sensitive topics, goes through a journey of re grief and rediscovery and finding yourself and falling back in love with the sport that you kind of took a step back from because someone in your life passed away that you shared that sport with. So it's a lot more heavy, but there is a lot of lightheartedness within it as well, where Summer Shot is more just like fun drama. So they're very different. Very different, but still slow burn hockey romances with Golden Retriever MMCs, which I laugh about because I'm someone who loves morally gray males. And I was like, really? I wrote a Golden Retriever MMC? Like I was so surprised. But now they have this place in my heart, and I think they're creeping up the list in terms of tropes. I think I like Golden Retriever a little more now than Morally Gray Male, which I was like very concerned about in the beginning.
So, speaking of tropes, if you had to classify your books, so obviously, Golden Retriever MMCs and hockey, but like, what would you say are like some tropes or even some micro tropes that you really think make your books like stand out?
Slow burn. I am a sucker for a slow burn romance. I love the angst. I love it and I hate it at the same time, but that's what makes it so great. So my books, a majority of them will always be slow burn romances. I have to have a happily ever after. That's something that I need in my books. It might not be in that one particular book, but the series will have a happily ever after. Main difference with One Shot, the first book in the series. It does have a happily ever after. You could read one shot, be happy, not go along with the series. But the second book does not really have a happily ever after and leads more into the third book. So they're a little different in that sense. But all my series will always have a happily ever after because I personally need that myself. Um, I already said Golden Retriever MMC. Mental health rep is something that's really important to me. I think it's great that the book community in general is coming together and talking more about mental health in general, and I wanted to do that and be a part of that conversation. So, both One Shot and Summer Shot do have different aspects of mental health representation, something that I want to continue to do in my books as much as I can. I would say those are the main ones.
First of all, I love that there's more of a resurgence of mental health in a sports romance book because these sports are grueling. And
Mm,
I think it's so important to like shed light on like how, somebody's past or like the pressure that the sport provides like really can tarnish somebody's mental health. Um, and I think that's something from what I've read from your books, like you do such a beautiful job with it.
thank you.
Now, obviously, the story came to you pretty quickly and it was
Mhm.
able to get written pretty fast, but do you think that like you will stay in sports romance forever? Like, do you know that you want to do sports romance or hockey romance for the long haul? Or are there other like genres or subgenres that
Yeah.
you are like considering exploring?
Yeah, I'm smiling big because I have written three books completely. The third is not hockey romance whatsoever. So I kind of geared off a little bit. I just got an idea that came to me, and I was like, I have to, like similar to the first book, it just came pouring out of me, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just roll with it because now I know that I'm not gonna always have that. So use it while I can. Still romance. I think romance will always be my genre. I love romantasy. There's a reason why the team is called the Wyverns, Tide of Romantasy or Fantasy in the future. But I am a romance girl at heart and something that I always want to continue to focus on. Subgenre wise, I would say the one I have in my back pocket is kind of a rom-com. Rom-com slash more contemporary romance. But I'm really, really excited about it. I am planning to dabble in sports adjacent romances outside of hockey. Um, Adjacent because they don't necessarily play the sport but share the love over the sport. But I do have so many ideas for more hockey romances outside of this series, so something I probably will always continue to have excitement and passion for. So really all over the place, but romance is at the core.
And as a happily ever after stan, I am thrilled. I am thrilled for everything that you come up with in the future. Let's see. Now I want to just get into like some miscellaneous questions that I
Yeah.
always like to pick fellow authors' brains about. So, who are the authors that inspire you, either as a reader, a writer, or both?
I would say Sarah J. Maas is a big one. And the reason why I say her specifically is because without reading ACOTAR, I wouldn't have found Bookstagram or Book Talk, and I would not have become an author myself because I wouldn't have met indie authors and been like, oh, this is something I actually could do on my own. So without reading that series, I would have never found that. So I credit a lot of that to her. My sister bought me the book, so she takes credit, but there's a hot topic in our house. I credit SJM. So definitely SJM. I also really love Callie Hart and JLA, which I know I'm reading the From Blood and Ash book right now. But her other series are so well written, and she does it in a way that's, I feel like her books are a little more tell than show, at least some of her series. But she does it in a way that's like perfection at the same time. And I think she's really focused on simplifying the words. Like it's not too wordy, it's not over the top. It's exactly what you need and want as a reader because it makes sense and you understand it right away. And I think that's really hard to do. So I really like her style of writing. I also love Emily Henry and Tessa Bailey. They're two of my favorite romance authors. Um, and I think unpopular opinion, but I actually really like Colleen Hoover. I love how it's very hits you hard and then gives you a happily ever after at the end. I love how it kind of mixes with your emotions, takes you on an emotional roller coaster, but then gives you the happy ending that you want.
Love that. What would you say is like either some of your all-time favorite books or what are books that you would auto recommend?
I love the book Confess by Colleen Hoover. I need to reread it actually, but it's my favorite of hers. I also really like the book Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. It's the second book in the series, but you don't need the context of the first book. I don't even know what it is about it. It just is a perfect romance to me, and that's probably one of my, I would say, top five favorite books. My favorite book I read this year is Quicksilver. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend. It's a phenomenal romantasy. She is such a great writer. Definitely has the morally gray male in there, and someone who will give Rysand or Rysand, however you pronounce his name, a run for his money. My sister makes fun of me because in my head, I always call him Rice instead of Reese, just based on like how it's laid out. And I know it is Reese and, but in my head, it's still Rice and.
I don't know when you found Sarah J. Maas, but I found her like as her books were coming out. I spent two books reading him as Rysand, and my brain has corrected it, but I feel like the books are even more nostalgic and like, oh, that's my book when I think that his name is Rysand. So
I still read it as that every time I see his name, and my sisters make fun of me. I read Akatar for the first time last year, so it's still relatively new. I also love Throne of Glass. I've read that whole series too. Like you can see my SJM shelves up there. I have not read Crescent City. They're so scary because they're so big, and I've heard mixed reviews, so I've found other books that I want to read before them, but I will eventually get to them. I also know the series isn't over, so I'm kind of like, I can wait until more books come out and then maybe I'll get to them.
I'm dying to know. If you had to pick one, what is your all-time favorite Sarah J. Maas book?
A Court of Mist and Fury. Right there. I would say all-time favorite book in general. The amount of one-liners that just pull at your heartstrings and like make you tear up because they're so good. Like she is a freaking genius, and I don't understand how she has that many worlds in her head and how she can create such like I swoon over it every time. It's so good. If to anybody, I always recommend that book. I'm like, obviously, you have to start with the first one and just get through the first one so that you can read the best book of all time.
No, literally. I always like to say Akamath is like my all-time favorite or one of my all-time favorites, but definitely my favorite Sarah J. Maas book. Close behind it is Queen of Shadows for me personally. But I will say Throne of Glass as a whole, I liked better. But man, Akamath is just, that is the book of my soul. She was in her bag when she wrote that. But as somebody who's read all of Crescent City, I understand the mixed reviews. I do. And
Okay.
also, this is just my personal preference. Trying to read it physically, I gave up three times. The audiobook saved me. The audiobooks are the only reason I was able to get through it. It was still great. Like the first book was rough, but eventually, like, yeah, it became a five-star book, and then on and on. But I beg of you, if you haven't found out spoilers, do not Google it. Do not Google, do
No,
not
I
look
have
up fan
not.
art.
I
Like,
know that they like intertwine a little bit. Like that's all I know. And I don't want to know more. I know the main character's name is Bryce. Like I know that it's more like urban fantasy, but other than that, I'm like I know nothing and I'm okay with that. I will get to it eventually. It just not I need to read Brimstone since it just came out. That is at the top of my list next after I go through the Blood and Ash series, which is going to take me a while.
okay, also dying to know. If you could, I mean, the answer could easily be A Court of Mist and Fury, but I still want to know if you could have written one book that already exists, like, and it would have been like your work, what book would it have been?
I I want to say A Court of Mist and Fury, but I actually think Quicksilver. And I don't have a lot of logic as to why. That's just what, like, first thought, what I have. Like, I want to say, but I want it to be A Court of Mist and Fury. But yeah, I think Quicksilver. It could be that it's so top of mind because the second book is coming out, but I also think it's just so well written, and you can also tell that like she is a romance author first, and I really like that.
That does make a lot of sense because I haven't finished Quicksilver. It got put on pause. I'm like halfway through it, and that checks out. Like she is more
Mhm,
romance. Like
mhm.
she writes
When
more
you
romance.
recognize that, you can tell just by the
Yes.
writing. And I think that's why I would pick that more because it's more of like my style of writing where like I wish I could write epic fantasies and I eventually am going to attempt to one day. But that is like what SJM is that is her. Where Callie Hart has written more romance books to start, and I think that's kind of why. I also feel like the cover looks like Harry Styles. I recently saw in an interview that it's like a mix of Timothy Chalamet and someone else, and I was like, okay, so it wasn't that far off. Kind of still has Harry Styles vibes.
I see the vision, especially the Timothy Chalamet part. I could see it in the hair
Hmm.
for sure.
And I didn't know, I was came across on Instagram. She created the cover herself. I'm like, what?
Really?
You can do that and you can write that well? Why?
I know. It's like there are a few authors out there that like, oh, who is it? Oh, Rachel Gillig. Rachel Gillig draws her own fan art. Like,
I wish I would have to
and
go to
it's so
so like
good.
I would take a lot of classes and it would take me a long time to learn how to do that.
It low-key pisses me off so bad, but it's just
I
like, you go,
it's on my
girl.
bucket list to create one of my covers one day, but it will be more of like a typography. Like it will not be characters on the cover because I cannot do that.
I guess my last question is if you could host a TED Talk, if somebody invited you to do a 45-minute to an hour long TED Talk and you just had to speak off the cuff, what would be your topic of choice?
Either falling in love with fictional men. I think that would be an easy one to talk about. Or my dog. His name is Guinness. He's a Yorkie Poo. He's adorable. I could talk about him for hours. I would show so many pictures. He's a toddler in a dog body. I swear, like he is so funny. So one of those. Two of my favorite things, my dog and fictional male characters.
I love that. Yeah, I love getting to ask people that question just because I talk for 45 minutes to an hour over here at Talk Wordy. So I'm like, oh, I'm wondering what would my guests like if they had 45 minutes unfiltered, just them and like an audience of 1,000, what would they want to talk
I
about?
should have said my book so that people will read it, but that's too logical.
Yeah, this was so fun. Thank you
Yeah, thank you
again
so
for coming on
much.
the show. Um, what I like to do to end the episode is I usually give a word of advice, but I would love if you would want to extend the best piece of author wisdom that you have for our listeners, or if you just have any life advice you want to share, whatever's just top of mind that you think that would benefit our listeners.
I would say this goes for if you're trying to be an author or just in life in general, don't give up. I almost gave up so many times, and I could have never imagined that I would hold a book, let alone two books that I have written. And it's challenging, but it is 100% worth it. So if you care enough about something, don't give up on it. It is totally worthwhile.
I love that. Yeah, I will say what I'm seeing more often is that people are succeeding simply because they don't quit
Mhm.
versus those who like really go ham and then they fizzle out because they're exhausted. I think if you find a good consistency level to where you're not running on fumes and you
Mhm.
just keep doing that and you just don't quit, you will see success and you will
Yeah.
feel it. And I love that. Okay, so AC, tell us where our listeners can find more of you and more of your books? Where can they buy them? Where can they read them? Where can they follow you?
So my Instagram and TikTok is at AC Wonderland Writes. For the beautiful sprayed edge editions, you can go to my website, which is acwonderlandwrites.com. I don't sell sprayed edges in bookstores just because it's a lot harder to do as an indie author, but I do have them on my website. I do have two examples. One is shown the wrong way. But I'm obsessed with sprayed edges, so I had to do them for myself. There's two different versions, so if you are looking for those, my website again, acwonderlandwrites.com. Also, One Shot is available on Kindle Unlimited right now. Not sure how long it will be there, so definitely recommend checking it out. And if you love it, get yourself a sprayed edge edition.
AC, thank you so much again for coming on the show. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, I will see you in the next one.